Good morning to all. On this occasion of 3rd TIOL Congress 2022, I extend a very warm welcome to Honorable Justice Manmohan, Dr. Debaroy, Mr. V.K. Garg, some of the members of the Honorable Jury, some of the senior serving and former officials of the Government of India and state governments as well, my friends from Corporate India, TIOL team, the awardees who are around, I can see some of them here. I think most of them will be with us tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with my observation very briefly, because all of us are here to hear the dignitaries on the dais, and particularly the vision which Mr. V.K. Garg is going to share with us, that the canvas of taxation by 2047. It's a very interesting presentation we will have very soon. But briefly, I would like to make some observation. And let me start with this economic bloodbath which the global economy is subjected. The sparks it had regained post-COVID-19 has dimmed again. Generally speaking, energy is life, but its skyrocketing prices worldwide, in fact, it has put the entire global economy on the edge. More jittery times, I see clearly, lie ahead of all of us. The emerging economies in particular will face very challenging times because it will directly wreck their forex kitty. And that is where the real challenge lies for most of the emerging economies, to deal with this emerging crisis of inflation and so many factors which we have seen in last few months, in fact. And the rising energy cost, it has fueled inflation in almost half of the global economies. And what is more interesting from taxpayers' perspective is the tectonic shift in the approach of modern governments to grapple with this particular polycrisis. I see this as a polycrisis. And no crisis is new to this world, all of us know. However, that political approach to deal with a particular state of problems or a crisis which is emerging rapidly, that is where we see a lot of innovation and creativity in the approach of the modern governments. Before I talk about how, let me transport you back to 1973-74. It was not just a grim winter, but grimmer were the energy prices, very similar to what is enveloping the global economy today. At the height of the crisis in 73-74, the German Chancellor, Willy Brandt, his official response to the crisis was, for most of the common households, quote, "We all have to get dressed a little more warmly this winter, maybe in the next, and maybe 3 winters," unquote. In other words, the government a few decades back were not willing to announce any bailout package at the cost of the fiscal health of the treasury. Those days, the governments were largely tight-fisted, a complete no-no to splurging of tax revenue. That was the scenario a few decades back. Now let me take you back to 2022. What is happening now? Let us now visit how politically savvy the modern governments have become today, and how enormously lucky we are that we are living in the present era of bailout packages. Governments across the world, including the emerging economies like India nowadays, do not think twice to extend fiscal cushions to hard-hit not only individuals or households, but also virtually all the sectors of the economy. Such a radical shift may be analyzed in 3 broad phases. The first phase the way I look at is that the financial crisis 2007 to 2009, when most of the government cushioned the crumbling financial institutions by generously doling out financial assistance in terms of billions of dollars, and they have survived. Then comes COVID-19, which nudged the rich as well as not so rich economies to provide economic stimulus packages which amounts to about 17% of the global GDP. That in terms of $1 trillion, it makes about huge amount, 1,700 billion or so. Now the third phase began after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, jockeying up the energy prices, along with several other food commodities, etc. And to deal with this crisis, the governments are busy policing bailout packages. Only 10 days back, the government of Japan unfolded a package just to deal with inflation, $200 billion package. Where will all such resources come from? That is the question, that is the larger question. And of course, as per my understanding, nowhere but the taxpayers. So governments of course have the rights to tax citizens, but the taxpayers also have the right to demand simple tax laws, easy compliance, better taxpayer services, reinforcement of mutual trust between tax administrations and taxpayers, and to top it all, a bout of fiscal contemplation to improve the system against the rapidly emerging digitalization worldwide. This is what TIOL Knowledge Foundation intends to facilitate: a national discourse over taxes, not to generate heat, but to throw some light, provide some new insights to the world of policy making and also the tax compliance, a peep into the dynamically evolving blockchain and AI-driven tax tools, promoting automated compliance across the board. In fact, across the canvas, we see the technology is being adopted in a big way, and the big data, how it is yielding new insights, not only for the revenue and the tax administration and policymakers, but the taxpayers as well, and also in corporate planning. And also, we are looking at all these inputs, to what extent it spurs investment in the economy. So our efforts are to encourage a new culture of economic and fiscal thought leadership in partnership with all the stakeholders. And this is what the distinguished panelists are going to do today in our 4 technical sessions, which we have later today. I reiterate that TIOL Knowledge Foundation is a forum to reflect on what has been done so far by India and as an aspiring economy, and what more needs to be done in the coming years. This is also an occasion to examine the fiscal relationship of the citizens with the state. That's very important, that as a taxpayer, we form some kind of nexus with the state, and how the state responds to the issues and the challenges of a taxpayer. So we also try to promote that the taxes affect both, at the same time, equity and efficiency of the economy. Taxation is not only about raising revenue, but it also demonstrates a society's judgment about what counts as a precious contribution to the common good, to the public good. I believe the tax policies for freer and fairer country like ours has to be different, and all of us have assembled here today to deliberate on the same. With these words, I once again thank all the dignitaries on the dais and the distinguished speakers for sparing their valuable time to enchant and enlighten the audiences present here. Thanking you all. Thank you, sir.